what's happening is you've then got the commercial types that want to use the word complete because it makes commercial sense to them, because the guardian wants to come and buy something they don't have to do anything with. So there's ways to call it complete. And legally, trade legally, so it's legislation rather than law, but to trade and use the word complete, it has to meet the FDF guidelines. Now, they do that by either just adding a premix, so the same way the processed food would do, which we know certain brands do that. So that's one way to tick the box. Or they can do it by adding certain whole foods, having it assessed by somebody like myself, putting through a professional formulator, so you have the printouts and you know that certain foods have certain nutrients in them. And that is then classed as a justification sheet of it being complete and balanced. So that's another way they can do it. Now, when they trade and they call 80-10-10 complete, they're not fulfilling that legislation for trading, and it shouldn't be written on there. It should say complementary. But because most people, not most people, I'll take that back considerably, but a lot of people who set up raw food companies don't necessarily know about the industry. They see it very much like, oh, I'm just going to start this pet food subscription, a bit like what you were talking with the fresh as well. And they don't really understand what it is that's got to be on the packaging. And they just create this because 80-10-10, I mean, when I first started to raw feed in the 90s, there was no 80-10-10.
No.
You just fed what was right for your dog, and you got to know your dog.
Yep.
Like we get to know ourselves and we get to know our kids, and people have forgotten how to do that now. They don't want to get to know their dog necessarily. And it is quite scary, I think, sometimes to be feeding your dog and be like, wow, I'm responsible for the health of this individual. And you want to pass that buck because you're so busy and all the rest of it. So I can see how it's got to that stage. But 80-10-10 originated just because it was seen as the most normal for the amount of muscle meat, the amount of bone, and the amount of offal or organ meat. And that's all then in. And that is what you call it's complete in terms of the meat part of it. But it should never have got that label on it. And I feel quite strongly that in terms of the raw industry, there's people like you and I that are doing our best to educate the guardians and to make a difference in the raw world. And then you have that kind of thing happen and you think, well, we should be in this together.
Yeah, it's the Wild West. It's the Wild West. And it's an industry or a corner of the industry that we love and we think is best for our dogs, yet is tarnished